the market like what we have gone through. All was rumors and different statements, but it looks like he admitted that there are a lot of pressure from. One issue which we don't want to miss down here is the competitive advantage of having like Dubai or UAE as a business hub. Why a lot of regional, stations for so many multinational companies down here is because it used to be cost effective. And if things with the inflation, which Dr. Korea says is good, this might be positive for some people, but on the other side, these people cannot maintain such, increasing of operational costs. And many people will start going away. Many people already send their families back home. They cannot maintain to have the same standard of living as they used to have before. It will happen, I think. When? I don't think it will take a long time.
Yeah, we have to run. No, I think it should not, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think a common currency is more likely. Developments around a common currency is more likely, and I hope they will not. And I do think that coming here and investing here, you have to look around. I think all of you can afford to drive and own a Porsche Cayenne here. That's pretty good. I think very few of you can afford that in Europe. But that's... Sorry? Good. Well, there will be some exceptions. But the fact is that there is an advantage here, but the economy cannot survive and should not orient itself towards the low-cost labor. It is not a competitive position that's sustainable. The IFC, that's a competitive position. The central bank, ESCA, those are competitive positions. Now, Abu Dhabi as an economy, those are competitive positions. Not construction workers living in labor camps. And so I think that it would be well to let nature follow its way. And before I get killed by my colleague, we have to catch an airplane which is about to leave. And it's very important to my colleagues, so I have to apologize.
Let's thank let's thank Gordon and Osama for that.
But for everybody in the room, it's quite interesting. I mean, everybody's financial position is different, right? But it's very interesting to think in your own money, right? How much you actually have in local currencies, and also, for example, how much are you really willing to take this view? Remember this whole argument of what is risky, what is safe, right? Last year, all these places which are in India still considered, or was considered risky. In hindsight, you should have had all your money in India, right? I mean, the census, if we remember, in 2001 was at 3,600. Now they're close to 20,000, right? There was no risk. But if you went to the bank, any major bank, and any of our private bankers, they would tell us, no, risky, never put more than 5% of your money into these things, right? Or 10% or 15%, right? So this is exactly the point where Dubai comes in. There's a new world order we're going into. It's completely different, right? So again, this is what people consider safe is actually often very risky. And this is exactly the point, that we're going away from the sort of mainstream. And just as a final thought, because we're here in Dubai, the analogy is in the airline industry. It is increasingly what Dubai wants to do, also from the DFC perspective, and this is why it was important that they officially announced that in any company from any country can make IPO listings here in their currency, right? A truly global offshore market. It's a bit like Emirates Airlines. I mean, you can think about it. Why were they successful? Because they started to connecting the dots on that map, and people thought there was no business. I mean, when I grew up in Germany in the mid-80s, nobody really thought about India. Africa was completely considered to be uninteresting, and so was everything else, but United States, Europe, Britain, and Japan. Now everything in between the map is suddenly very, very attractive. I mean, believe it or not, the flights from Khartoum to Beijing are full with Emirates. You try to get from Karachi to Nairobi is also full. But who would have thought that a business person in Pakistan thinks about having an account with Barclays Bank in Kenya? These days they do. Right? So again, bypassing the dollar, more and more transactions between on the process. And this is exactly the place where Dubai could really make a niche for itself. All these buildings you see there is not to have hedging in dirhams, it is to hedge out the risk from Sri Lankan rupees against Polish zlotys. You know? I think that's the true remark of the future. But the question is, how many of you have this at the moment in their portfolios? Most people, when you see at the bank statements, most people still British pounds and, and euros and perhaps the almighty dollar. And this is exactly the point about the currency forecast for 2008. All the banks now saying that the dollar will recover. Yes, it will recover against the so-called old currencies, right? Against the euro, but most probably still going to depreciate. The dollar most probably still going to depreciate a lot against South African rand, Chinese yuan, Malaysian ringgit, and Singapore dollar, right? But when you go to a local bank here, nobody can open an account for you with this currencies, right? Same thing when you wanted to go to, let's say, the major banks in 2003, 2004 and ask them whether they can invest for you in the GCC markets. The answer was, sorry, don't know, we'll get back to you, or we cannot do it. See, that's exactly the point. That was precisely the reason why things like Imar went from 6 dirham to 28. Yeah. So again, when you think about this whole inflation issue and currency, it's most probably not the most obvious solution. So your choice should not be, should I sell my British pounds and invest in euro? It would be perhaps more thinking about some of these Asian currencies that a lot of people don't really pay too much attention to yet.
Good, thank you. Did you guys have any questions for Michael from the floor? Get his opinion?
Yes,
Yeah.
Michael, the discussion has been about untying the US dollar and then guessing what the next thing to tie it to is.
Right.
Why not go along the economic rational path of free flow?
There's two things here. I mean, this is, just as to link into your question, right? Suddenly, once we saw so much convert dollars into dirham, the problem was what to do with the dirham, right? Buy more Dubai property or buy Imar shares and perhaps buy Al Dar in Abu Dhabi. But the point is that in local currency, you don't have many investment opportunities, right? And again, this is exactly the point. We don't have a bond market here, right? I mean, if you think about why we need a bond market in order to absorb all this liquidity, right? If I'm a buyer of $500 million worth of Japanese yen, I'm going to buy JGBs, Japanese government bonds. I'm not going to buy Sony stock because then I am floating, I am moving the market, right? And this is exactly the point. If you have a truly floating currency, nobody can handle this because you don't have the financial instruments in order to manage the float. You see? I mean, you don't have a yield curve in dirham where you put serious money into it, right? And this is exactly the problem. This is the point that Gordian made, that yes, I mean, if they would do this, it would be dead because it would jump up and down because nobody really knows how to price it. And this is where you get pure speculation at that time because the fundamentals nobody can really value. And I suppose the solution here really is what the IMF said, is to have an Arab currency union. And I'm a European, as you know, I'm originally from Germany, and in the old days nobody would have thought that the French, the Germans, and the Italians could actually agree on anything, but now they do, right? And I suppose here it's the same. I mean, perhaps the solution would be to make a Saudi the president of the GCC, Central Bank or something. Right? But the way I see it, and my understanding is that it's actually a much more political issue. I mean, the local Qataris don't want Saudi to be running the show. It's neither on the Omanis. That's why Oman always said, we're not interested in this. But